Know it's been a while, now I'm mixing up the drink. I just need a girl who gon' really understand. I just need a girl who gon' really understand.
What is up, guys? Edgar here, lifestylesdefined.com. Welcome back to LD Photo. So this is part 4 of my series, My Trip to Mexico. Again, check out the other 3 videos if you haven't done so. But this one is part 4, so let's get right into it. So this first picture you'll see on screen is a picture of the cathedral. And it's not a full picture of the cathedral, and the reason why I didn't take a full shot is because I didn't have a wide enough lens. I took my Sigma 30mm lens, shot it with the Sony A6000. But I wanted to capture just small details of this building. One of the things that I appreciate a lot of the architecture there in Mexico is just the attention to detail that went into this building here. I mean, so many hands touched this building, and so many different so much creativity went into the building of this cathedral. And one of the conversations we had with one of the taxi drivers was how the years that it took to actually finish the cathedral, and I couldn't remember the number, but it was a really large number. And I thought it was really interesting, that this building not only has it been there for so long, but just the amount of time that it took for them to build it. And that's something that I love about Mexico, is the architecture, something that we miss here in the U.S. We don't have a lot of this type of architecture. We have a lot of modern buildings, and again, there's a beauty to the modernness of the buildings here. But just seeing a place like this one here, I love it. As you can see in this shot, the sky is completely white. And it's not that it's overexposed or blown out. It's the fact that there just wasn't any detail in the sky that day. I mean, it wasn't blue, it was white. And so that's what I captured there. Now, maybe in post-processing, I can do some digital art and add a background layer to it with maybe a moody feel to it, some clouds, dark clouds. And actually, I ended up doing it in black and white. So as you can see, it's the same shot here. It's in black and white. Again, I love the details, the pillars, the spikes there on top, the crosses, the bells, just a lot of details in the bricks. And I really love the architecture of this building. And I think that was my favorite part of the building, is that as far as the outside was the top section of it. I thought was really detailed. And I love that there's a clock in the middle there as well. So just wanted to show you guys in this shot the architecture, not necessarily any type of creative shot or anything like that, but just simply to show you guys the detail of this building. Now, this shot here is more of a street photography type shot. So I decided to go Ramon mode. Ramon's, I mean, he's so good at doing street photography. I don't do a lot of it. Here where I live, there's not a lot of people. The city's not alive. But here in Guadalajara, the city is so alive. So many people walking around, kids, adults, older people, young people. I took the shot here because it was interesting to me, the horse and buggy here with a heart, obviously, and the color red is my favorite color, so I had to take a shot. But obviously, it makes you think about couples. It makes you think about love and romance. And but it also makes you think about tourism. When tourists go there, naturally this is something that they might not have in their hometown or their home country. So that would be one thing that you could do as a tourist and make it a romantic thing for you and your significant other. So I wanted to capture that, and also capture the people, the people all around. There's so many different people doing so many different things. People dressed in suits. You have the police there. You have just people wearing casual clothes, and there's other people taking pictures, taking selfies, so much action going on. And that's one thing that I loved about just being in the city here. Now, the interesting thing is how fast emotions can change. So here I'm thinking about romance and love and things like that. And just a few feet ahead, the entrance is there, the entrance to the cathedral. And the emotion completely changed there from romance to just, kind of a scary moment. There was a gentleman a homeless guy sitting right at the entrance of the cathedral. And there was another homeless guy maybe about 10 feet away from him on crutches on the ground. He had a big cut on his leg. And he noticed that the homeless guy at the entrance was drinking alcohol. So the guy with the crutches ended up yelling at the guy and telling him, have some respect. This isn't, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol here. Get the hell out of there. And so they had a scuffle, and there was even some kicks thrown at each other. And it was just interesting to go from me thinking about romance to just a few feet away, you almost had a fight break out between two homeless people. One of them felt that it was disrespectful to drink alcohol in a place where it's supposed to be sacred, where you're supposed to, ask for forgiveness and cleanse your spirit. So it was really interesting, the switch of emotions. And then just inside of the building, the emotion changed again. So this next shot that I have here is of the inside of the building, and I'm looking square right down to the altar. So I put the camera on at a low angle. Again, the Sigma lens here. I did a 15-second exposure, and the reason, and I know it sounds weird, 15 seconds inside of a building, but the reason why is because there are so many people walking in and out. And as you can see in this picture, the gentleman towards the right left, or the right bottom corner of the shot there's a gentleman there, an older guy, and he sat there for the entire time we were there. He never moved, he just sat there. And so as a photographer, you want to tell a story about the person in the photograph, but obviously I don't know this person. So this is a photograph that you take to leave it open to interpretation to those viewing the photograph. For me, what I thought when I saw him was, just wonder. I wondered why he was there, why he was there for so long, and why he was sitting by himself. And so, I decided to take the shot. I did edit it in a certain way to kind of give it I would say an emotional mood to it. I did brush the benches all the way down to the altar, and I darkened that. The actual floor leading to the altar, I give it a little more reflection to reflect the colors above towards the ceiling. There's a lot of gold, a lot of brown, orange tones, yellow tones to this photograph here, and that's really the way it is inside of the cathedral. And then, of course, the architecture. I think I shot it at f/16. So there's, you can see a lot of the detail, especially in the raw file. I mean, you can see so much detail. It's insane how much detail you can capture. But again, I wanted to capture this gentleman here. Long exposure, got rid of the people walking back and forth. So, in this moment, the way I captured it like I saw it. I saw this gentleman by himself there. And again, it made me wonder why he was there alone. So that's why I did the processing the way I did, and I shot it with those settings as well. This is one of my favorite shots. In fact, on Instagram, I had a really cool quote, and let me see if I can grab it for you guys here. It's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and it basically says, "Prayer is not asking, it is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart." So I thought it was a really interesting quote, and so I did caption that. I added that quote too as a caption for the shot on Instagram. So this is one of my favorite shots there. Now this shot is this is actually right at the altar, so looking up towards the dome of the church. And what I wanted to capture here was the details, all the details. So obviously I added some darkness to both left and right corners, and I just wanted to focus on the center of the altar here. I mean, you have so many details in the glass, the windows, the colors are beautiful, they're vivid, the artwork there on top, and all the gold and the handcrafted little details that are there, the statues. It just made me think of the length of time that it took to build this cathedral here, and how many people touched this church, and how many people it took to actually build it. So there's a lot of different details, by many different people. And so again, there's so much gold in here, so much details. I mean, everywhere you look, there's tiny little details. And the pillars on the ceiling, the chandeliers are beautiful. But the altar was really interesting for me to capture. Now, the interesting thing is the difference of emotions that you get depending on your personality or your perspective of things. Obviously, I used to be kind of weirded out by cathedrals like this one, to have Jesus on the cross bleeding, and just all the idols around the statues. That used to just freak me out. And so going into this church now, or this cathedral now as an adult, it's a different experience, because I went into it as more of an artistic kind of perspective, where I focused a lot on the details, and most of the time you'll hear me talk about the details more than the actual religious aspect of the cathedral here. So that's why I shot this the way I did, just focusing on the details, just to show you guys how amazing it is. And if you ever have a chance and opportunity to go to Guadalajara, Jalisco, this is a cathedral you have to visit. I did run into a couple of older men that were from the US, some tourists, and so it was nice to see, you know, people from here just going into the cathedral there to also get an experience out of all of the details and everything that has to do with the emotion that you get when you go into a building like this one. Now this next shot is actually of the fence or the railing that's right below this dome, and this picture here, as you can see, is faces all along, all the way down. So these are angels that are looking towards the people sitting on the benches, which is really an eerie type of feeling. And I actually captioned it on Instagram. I captioned it "watching over us." So you have all these angel faces looking towards, and they look like children. They're looking towards the, you know, people sitting on the benches and the people that come to pray right there, right at the altar. Now you're not allowed to go into the other side of the gate here, but there was a gentleman there that was just full of emotion. I mean, he was crying. Just his body language and the way he was moving, I could tell just the difference in the experiences that you can have. From my perspective, it was different. You know, I was there to look at the architecture and appreciate the beauty of the creation by men, and he obviously had more of a religious type of emotion. He was overwhelmed by it, and you could tell. And there was people trying to bring him down away from the altar, because I guess you're not supposed to be up there, and you can get in trouble. So they were even threatening to telling him that they were going to call the police. So it was really interesting because, you know, again, if you're a religious person, you're gonna have a completely different experience than someone like myself that goes into it as a architecture type of person, a person who's focusing on the details and the creativeness of men. And so again, you know, this was just an interesting shot. All of these were made out of gold, and just the details in the faces, again, the eeriness of the faces looking towards you when you're looking at them towards the altar, I think it made for a really interesting shot. So anyway, the cathedral was definitely an experience for me. Again, I really hadn't visited a cathedral since I was a kid. I remember as a kid visiting and just being really weirded out by the idols and the statues, and those type of things just did not they didn't fit me well as far as my personality. But going into it as an adult, completely different experience. Again, I didn't go into it with a religious point of view. I went into it more as a person that was there to observe and appreciate the architecture, and just observe the people that were around, and then the moments that people were having individually. So again, really interesting to go from thinking about romance when you see the horse and buggy to the people right out the homeless guys right outside of the cathedral, you know, getting into that scuffle, and then going into the actual cathedral, and then watching the man praying there by himself, and then going all the way down towards the altar and seeing the details in the architecture, and then having the emotion of that gentleman there at the altar, you know, that was overwhelmed with emotion. Just so many different emotions going into just the cathedral there, and that's something that I love about when you travel, and when you go somewhere where you haven't been, you go in there with an open mind, and you get to experience a lot more, and you get to take a lot more with you. And you know, I have more stories to tell my children, and hopefully one day my grandchildren. So anyway, if you have time, if you ever have the opportunity to visit the cathedral in Guadalajara, Jalisco, please do so. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for joining me on this series. It was a pleasure sharing the photographs that I captured with you guys, and I hope to do more series like this one here. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, my name is Edgar, signing off. peace?
Well, I guess. And the reason we started Lifestyles Defined is because if we weren't on camera arguing about these things, the technologies, the phones, the iPhones, the Androids, the cameras, the games, we'd be on the phone arguing about it. We'd be in each other's houses arguing about it. So why not just put it in front of a camera for everyone to enjoy it the way we do? That's what Lifestyles Defined is all about. We just love this shit.